In a little over 10 years, the Avengers have stepped out from the X-Men's shadow to cement themselves as the world's most popular superheroes thanks to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Developer Crystal Dynamics may be presenting Marvel's Avengers as its own take on the Earth's mightiest heroes, but it's abundantly clear to me that the game attempts to leverage the film's success in order to win the player over after spending several hours with its upcoming beta. Marvel's Avengers is a game that Crystal Dynamics and publisher Square Enix hope will last for years to come, with new narratives, characters, and content added over time to keep players engaged. If there's anything to be learned from massive live service titles like Destiny 2, a game Avengers takes no shame in emulating, it's that the game played at launch is often inferior to the game that exists 2 or 3 years after the fact. Further still, gleaning any kind of useful impressions from a beta of a live service game is like being asked to provide an evaluation while viewing it through a keyhole. Fortunately, there is plenty of meat on this beta's bone to get a good sense of where Marvel's Avengers is heading, but making my way through it gave me mixed emotions. The clearest thought that came to mind after playing the beta was just how much like Destiny it was. If the idea of a live service game is completely antithetical to your tastes, I'm sorry to say that Avengers is probably not for you. The preview features a sliver of the included story, and while it's pretty well written and certainly well performed, it is subservient to the larger multiplayer framework that makes Avengers an evolving experience. I can't say for sure if purchasing the game will be worthwhile or not for those seeking the single-player story exclusively, but it's certainly not the focus of the title, and there's polish to the campaign that is missing because of that fact. Let's start with the tutorial level that takes place on the Golden Gate Bridge during A-Day, a celebration of the Avengers that is ruined by Taskmaster and his hired henchmen. This mission is the least fun part of the beta, and it's the first thing you do in the game. I totally understand the developers' reasoning for including it. They wanted to provide an opportunity to play as the 5 core heroes and give a taste of what they're capable of. However, that's not what makes these characters fun to play as in further missions, where there is no option to hot swap between them, forcing you to get well acquainted with the hero during a level. The tutorial is interrupted by a short cutscene every few minutes, which doesn't help, and whilst it's over quickly enough, it just leaves a bad taste in the mouth as the initial experience of the game. The beta skips over a bunch of early levels that introduce Kamala Khan, the hero at the heart of the game, and picks up after she has already partnered with Bruce Banner on her quest to reassemble the team. You then play as both Hulk and Kamala, aka Ms. Marvel, in a pair of missions in search of Tony Stark's AI Jarvis, before tackling one of the game's more open war zones as either hero searching for a hidden S.H.I.E.L.D. bunker. Dropping you further into the game means you miss on a lot of its different features being slowly introduced to you. There's resources to keep track of, gear to manage, collectibles to uncover, etc. It can feel overwhelming for a while before you get into the game's rhythm, but this hopefully won't be an issue for the full release. The more time I spent with the game's beta, however, the more I found myself enjoying it. Troy Baker's Bruce and Sandra Saad's Kamala have some excellent moments together as mentor and mentee, including a touching but light-hearted scene on the Chimera, a derelict helicarrier the pair use as a home base. Still, it's hard to not simply imagine Mark Ruffalo delivering the lines, as the Dr. Banner here is written so similarly to the one in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After getting used to the controls, both characters, as well as Iron Man and Black Widow, whom the player unlocks with the multiplayer portion of the beta, feel great to play. The heroes fundamentally control the same, so the player can get some muscle memory down, but the execution of their attacks and their effects on enemies are different. It's a testament to the game's combat system that even Black Widow, a character with no superpowers, can still hold her own and feel just as fun to play as the full roster. It means that players will spend their time jumping between heroes, and whilst they may find a favorite, as I did with Kamala, if they are resigned to play as another character in a multiplayer match, they won't do so with a heavy heart. The beta does not include Thor and Captain America outside of the tutorial, however, and whilst the developers wouldn't speak to their exclusion upon inquiry, something tells me from playing them in that opening mission that they need a little more time in the oven. Hopefully when the game launches with all 6 heroes, the roster will feel as balanced and enjoyable as it does here, and it gives me hope that the game will nail Spider-Man when he comes to PlayStation in 2021. The gameplay improves further with skill trees and gear modifiers that allow you to upgrade your hero. Some of the attacks, however, are frame for frame identical to those in the MCU. There's a move that Iron Man utilizes in the opening scene of Age of Ultron where he takes out a couple of Hydra soldiers by flying directly toward them only to at the last second bring himself to a hard stop with his hand repulses, the blast of which sends the bad guys hurtling. This exact move is available through the skill tree in the game, and whilst it feels fantastic to execute, it serves as yet another direct connection to the films. The most fun playing as these heroes happens during the multiplayer war zones, large open areas with several objectives, some of which are optional and well hidden. In one scenario, I used a ground pound as the Hulk, which tossed a handful of bad guys into the air. Insult to injury was added as another player utilized Kamala's High Five ability, a devastating move where her embiggened palm shoots out to send the mid-air enemies hurtling into the stratosphere. Attacks also adapt to the enemy you're facing. For example, the Hulk has an ability where he charges through a bunch of enemies, grabbing the final one in the chain and slamming them into the ground. However, if the final enemy is an opponent in a giant mech suit, the Hulk will instead leap onto its frame and smash down on it with his fists. Each character has an ultimate, the standout being Tony's Hulkbuster suit, briefly granting him the Green Avenger's strength in addition to Iron Man's flight and blasting capabilities. I mention this move specifically not just because the Hulkbuster armor is one of the coolest things ever, but anyone in the group can use it. Imagine my surprise when playing as Iron Man, I call it in, I'm impeded by a wave of enemies, and watch my friend as Black Widow jump into the hulking armor and smash till their heart is content. I had a handful of these moments like this where the game's problems just melted away, where I audibly shouted an expletive at how cool what just happened on the screen was. However, while the gameplay is really strong, it also feels very similar to other Avengers experiences like the Ultimate Alliance series and the LEGO titles. You'll stumble upon crates to open for new gear and collectibles, and boxes to smash for resources. It's all far more refined and enjoyable than previous games, but at the same time it doesn't feel like it's reinventing the wheel. Hero missions, war zones, and the quicker, more focused drop zones are initially accessible through the war table in the Chimera once the single-player portion of the beta is complete. From here, the player is given a world map to access different parts of the globe, each containing a variety of mission types. One area, the Tundra, which is the setting for the final single-player mission in the beta, is only accessible to revisit by completing a hidden side objective in one of the initial war zones. Stumbling across this in the beta was awesome, and gave a glimpse of the depth and replayability the final game will have with all of its content. The most interesting looking environment, the East Coast city shown off during the most recent showcase of the game, was unfortunately not available during our beta, but was promised for the upcoming public ones. One of the ways in which Avengers shines over Destiny is little quality of life improvements that players of that game have been asking for. Equipping gear from your locker, selecting a new mission, and accessing the marketplace for additional cosmetics can all be done without having to return to the Chimera. It's hard to say what exclusive functionality the helicarrier will have in the final game, but in the beta, I was able to do everything I needed to while sitting on the Quinjet, which serves as the waiting screen between missions. I was very quickly able to jump into another level with other players, and as people spend more and more time in the game on the grind for loot, this time saved is welcome. Another quality of life addition is pressing a button to auto-equip the gear with the highest power level, meaning those that are looking for a more casual experience than Destiny can quickly outfit their character without getting stuck in the minutiae. I honestly could write another 2,000 words about the Marvel Avengers beta. There's that much content, and I have that much love for the Avengers, a team that, to me, but I think it's going to take that kind of love for the team for this game to compel people to play it for an extended period of time. The beta doesn't give us an idea of what size the single-player campaign will be, but it's not the hook of the game anyway, so Crystal Dynamics is relying on your passion for the characters to draw you in. And let's be frank, for most people, their passion for the Avengers is tied directly into their enjoyment of the MCU. So no matter how much the dev team wishes for it to stand on its own, it's undoubtedly in that shadow. Do you like the Avengers, and are live service games at the very least inoffensive to you? You'll probably have some fun with the beta then. Fortunately, everyone will get the opportunity to go hands on it with themselves over the coming month.